Alright, I'm gonna try to get this done. If I don't, if I get way too much, and what I'm going to do is cut part of it off and finish this quilt up, and probably just let it set and do some offline, whatever I got to do. Try to get this thing done, because I want to get started on another one. I got 3 quilts that I want to try to give away, so that's what I'm working for. Alright, let's get busy again.
I was on that plane.
That can't be. The only survivor was a boy named...
William Collins.
This is incredible. What do you remember?
I don't think about it much.
You must remember something.
We do.
Now, if you need further confirmation, after what I just told you, of the Trump connection, of things that we've already connected. We already connected the JFK, the letter Q memorial, pointed to 66 degrees. We already covered all this, you guys. And in retrospective, it appears in this movie. The whole assassination attempt on the right side of the face, connecting Trump back to JFK. Then I noticed Luis's hair, which looks like, whose hair does that look like? So people tuning in don't think we're losing our minds. Whose hair does she look like? Now, as I'm waiting for you guys to chime in on that, of course, there's the 88 connection we've already established with Trump. Kris Kristofferson, who died at 88 years old. The film was filmed in 88. And even the name Millennium is equivalent to 88 numerically, with the double L's and the double N. 26. 6 plus 2 is 8. There's 88 miles an hour, Back to the Future. Biff, which was essentially based on the Trump character, according to the makers of Back to the Future. My mind was blown when all this was revealed. Whose hair does she look like? Trump's mother's hair. Let's look her up. I mean, this is chilling. We've found essentially another principality. There is the hair. Whoa. Now, what else is going on? Well, you ready for this? Here's more confirmation. So, when Millennium began filming in 1988, Kris Kristofferson was 52 years old. Guess how old the boy is who played in that scene? His name was Jamie Shannon, and he is now the same age that Kris Kristofferson was when this was filmed. He is now 52 years old. Now, this is what we call a full circle proof of the Matrix. You've got filming in 88, Kris Kristofferson 52 years old. And now we have 52-year-old young Chris Christopherson at the year that Chris Christopherson died at 88 years old. That's a full circle. A principality. Now, we get more confirmation about this whole cloning aspect as Louise, finally, all bets are off. She's got to show up in the timeline to prevent any further paradoxes because things have gotten out of control. So she shows up, she sees Bill, and she sees this scientist. And she talks about this cloning possession aspect. Watch this.
Duplicate them. Fingerprints, dental records.
Hold on, let me back this up.
We're very good at what we do.
I don't think about it much.
You must remember something.
We duplicate them. Fingerprints, dental records. We're very good at what we do. We're all dying. We can make the bodies, but we can't make the souls. We can't have children anymore.
Mr. Smith, I presume.
And I got chills at this part because at this point, Bill decides to go back with Louise to the future. Even though her world is dying, he's in love with her. Her world is dying, the future's dying because there's too many paradoxes. They become infinite, and her world is being destroyed. Bill goes back with her. He falls out onto the platform, he himself becoming a time traveler. And the android calls him Mr. Smith. And I couldn't help but make the connection to Agent Smith from The Matrix. Whoa. Now, we've learned so much since the last time I decoded this. In the whole movie, we are certain now that it pivots squarely around now, 2024, when Chris Christopherson died at 80 years old. The film then ends with the gate being reversed to the long-distant future, as the future self-destructs due to paradoxes. The gate turns from blue to red. It turns from ice to fire. Fire and ice, another concept we've been trying to figure out over the last several years. Let's watch this next part. She says, open the holding pen. So we saw the ice. They call, basically where they hold the humans are called holding pens, right? Like for cattle. And they reverse the gate and it turns red. They all go into the gate, which of course is a giant pyramid, as they all go single file into oblivion to the far distant future. And that's pretty much the end of the film. Now, you might have to watch this back a couple of times, but everything I just showed you is verifiable and it's just chilling. Now, Tomorrow, there will be 88 days left in the year. October 4th is 88 days left in the year. It is a time travel date. Remember in the film Back to the Future, when Doc Brown is hanging from the clock tower? The clock struck 10:04. And that is when Marty traveled back to the future for the first time. Why did this clock strike 10:04? Because 88 miles an hour is how fast he had to travel to get back to the future. So there's something to this, isn't there? Remember when Marty was in the DeLorean and there was fire on the tires, but then there was ice on the tires when he arrived. So there's our fire and ice, just like the movie Millennium. When he arrived, it says Pastor Crump. Let me look up that image right here real quick. You guys are here. I can't even believe all this. Back to the Future. Fire. Okay, here is the fire. And here on this movie poster, because this is all a movie. It's all a movie. It says Ronald Crump. Ronald Crump. I think it says Pastor Ronald Crump. Now, we decoded all this. We also found a 9/11 in this image here. It says Pastor Crump. That's Donald Trump. Of course, Biff, again, was the character based off of Donald Trump when he wasn't even that popular yet. But yet, the makers of Back to the Future said this. Then there's when Marty arrives in wherever he went, the DeLorean is like ice. Let's put that on here, see what that comes up with. Or cold. Remember? Here it is right here. It turns cold and it's frozen. So these people know something, don't they? They know something. Now let's see if we can find the scene here before we pop off of here of when he arrived. Oh, here it is. John Crump. Reverend John Crump. Let me show you this. And then I'm going to show you the 9/11/01 in the scene. So there it says, Reverend John Crump, Assembly of Christ. All the way back in the 1980s, you guys. Now let's find the wide-angle view of the entire street. See if they show it here. It's kind of a rare image because they know that the number 9/11/01 is encoded in the scene. See if we can find it here, you guys. Okay, let's do Back to the Future time travel. Wait. Clock Tower. Whoa. What was the name of that street that he goes down? Back to the Future time travel scene. Let's try that. I want to show this to you guys before we get off here today. Let's go with tools. Let's go for the biggest size. That should show us the image here. Maybe we can punch in DeLorean. The whole street. There it is there, but there's another image of this. Maybe what I'll do, if I can't find this in the next few minutes, I'll go ahead and put a link to it once I do find the image. And I wanted to show you guys live. So you can see that either these people have some kind of looking glass technology into the future, or they're making the future on some level. They're making the future, and they're depicting it in the past. Let's put DeLorean fire. Oh, let's try this. Back to the Future DeLorean fire tracks. All right, let's try this. And scene. We could put scene here, right? That might help us. Then I'll be back in the chat in a minute, you guys. Just want to figure this out real quick. The fire trail. Okay, here we go. We're getting closer. All right, that's kind of closer. All right. Now, when I first found that scene, I couldn't believe it. The whole courtyard. Let's see here. Stores. You can see all the stores out front. Now, of course, Back to the Future was full of esoteric imagery. A lot of people decoded this. I don't think people found the 9/11 in the courtyard scene. Maybe I should punch in courtyard. Was it in the courtyard? I guess it kind of was. I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, but let's try courtyard. Okay. Nothing. All right, guys, I'll find that for you later. Sorry about the... let me go back in the chat here. So what do you guys think about all this? We've got the 5th of November coming up for the election. Of course, that date also appears in Back to the Future. It's the day that Doc Brown discovers time travel on a toilet. Toilet is the portal. The drain becomes a portal. The portal of unclean, right? That's what a toilet is. It's an unclean portal. So here we are approaching the 5th of November. One of the most divisive elections probably in U.S. history. Okay. Yes, Reverend John Crump. Hill Valley. Mr. Needles. Yes, all kinds of connections to what's happening right now. All right. Some of you don't believe there will be any election. There'll be enough people that are still asleep to the lie that will go out. You can see it on the news. Lots and lots of people feel very strongly that Trump has to be reelected. So they're going to go give their consent and their vote. Now, there's one more clue kind of connecting Trump to the Bill Smith archetype from the movie Millennium. When he goes in to the hotel room, the number on the hotel room is 409. 49, which of course is 7 times 7, another Trump number. A little bit of a looser connection, but that was definitely worth a note just to complete the investigation, I guess you call it. All right, you guys. All right, I'm going to put links to all this, and also I'm going to find the image with the 9, 11, and 01. And just so you know, the 11 are the burning tire tracks. Those become the number 11 in the courtyard scene. The 9 is on a storefront, and the 01 is a light post on the right-hand side. In order, and we've covered this before, but some of you might be new to the channel and need to see this. I love each and every one of you guys, and I'm back on the trail tomorrow, see what I can figure out, and we'll be live again tomorrow. Much love, everybody. Take care.
Happens when somebody is possessed by God and Satan at the same time. Well, in today's story, we are going to look at a different dark corner of our reality, demonic possession. And if that's not creepy enough, the details surrounding this 400-year-old mystery lead to the dark web. Yeah, that dark web. This is the case of Isabella Tomasi. Isabella Tomasi was born in Agrigento, Italy on May 29, 1645. She is the second child of the Duke of Palma, Giulio Tomasi, Prince of Lampedusa, and of Rosalia Trena, Baroness of Falconeri and Torretta. Now, Isabella's father, Giulio, had sought and obtained permission from the Curia, which is the local church administration, to build a Benedictine cloistered monastery. They went ahead and transformed the ducal palace, which is basically their family home from that line of dukes, into the monastery. And Isabella Tomasi entered that Benedictine order on October 7th, 1660, at the age of 15. Isabella Tomasi became Sister Maria Crocefissa, dedicating herself to meditation and to an intimate and fervent unity with the Lord. The bishop of Agrigento, having heard of Maria's devotion, sent 3 Jesuit priests to confirm what he had learned. The 3 priests were impressed with the holiness of Maria and reported that back to the bishop on their return. According to the testimony of one of her sisters who lived with her in her community, she lived continuously in penance. She is even reported to have had a vision of Our Lady of Sorrows, which is another name for Mary, the mother of Jesus. She died on October 16th, 1699. In 1701, the beatification process, which is one of the steps to sainthood, was begun by the Bishop of Agrigento. And on August 15th, 1787, Pope Pius VI declared her venerable, which is the second step to sainthood. However, the next step to sainthood requires a miracle. So she would instead be called out by the Pope for her heroic virtue as a servant of God. So now you might be thinking, well, where is the paranormal part? Well, Maria was a little bit different than the other nuns. She was said to have told some of the other sisters in her convent that she was possessed by the devil. She firmly believed that Satan was trying to get her to turn her back to God, that Satan was trying to lead her down the path of evil, and she feared that the devil was going to force her to sin against her will. And the other nuns did witness unexplained behavior from Maria in the years that she was at the convent. They said that when she came close to the altar at the convent, she would start to scream at something that only she could see and faint. She had even confessed that she heard the devil's voice whispering to her. And on the night of August 11th, 1676, the other nuns from Maria's convent came rushing to her room after hearing a commotion coming from inside. And Maria was found writhing on the floor, her face smeared with black ink, and in her hand was a letter. And the nun said it looked like she was in some kind of a trance that she eventually snapped out of. Exhausted and weak, Maria said that Satan had possessed her and used her body to dictate a letter. And she says she has no idea what she wrote while she was in this trance because she wasn't doing the writing, Satan was. But any doubts that her fellow nuns had quickly went away when they looked at the contents of the letter. It was written in a strange mix of rustic glyphs and ancient Greek and ancient Latin and Arabic and even some occult symbols. The letter was completely illegible and from then on considered to be Satan's handwriting. And for almost 400 years, linguistics experts and code breakers have tried to decipher Maria's letter from the devil with no success. That is until 2017, when the first breakthrough in the translation of the letter occurred thanks in part to the dark web. Yeah, that dark web. The digital world's seedy underbelly where anything from drugs and weapons and people can be bought and sold, somehow did what nobody else could and cracked the code. Enter the Ludum Science Center in Catania, Italy. A team of researchers and scientists from Ludum who were familiar with the 400-year-old Devil's Letter heard about some encryption-decryption software that was created by the military and used by different governments around the world that was rumored to be used by intelligence services to crack codes. So the researchers dove into the dark web for help, and they managed to come back to the surface with the software. The decryption algorithm software was applied to the letter, and the scientists entered into the algorithm the ancient Greek alphabet, the Latin alphabet, the runic alphabet from the ancient Germanic people, as well as the one from the Yazidis, the people considered devil worshippers in the area of the Iraqi Sinjar before the appearance of Islam. All that was left to do was to sit and wait and see if that software could crack the code of the devil's letter. And amazingly, it worked! Mostly. Only 70% of the letter was able to be translated. But after almost 400 years, the software was able to translate at least some of Maria's demonic letter. And while the results certainly feel demonic in nature, sadly, they don't make any sense. The letter says, in part, humans are responsible for the creation of God. This system works for no one. God thinks he can free mortals. Perhaps now, Styx is certain. God and Jesus are dead weights. Now, this is not an exact translation. It's kind of been phrased and punctuated so it makes more sense to English-speaking people. But when translated into Italian, it didn't make sense for them either. And if you're interested in more of that translation, there is a link in the description below to a website that has more of the translation. I do not know if it is all of the translation or not, but it is more than what I've given here. Now, many historians believe that the letter could possibly be a prank pulled by a very bored nun who had been at this convent since a very young age. It is also believed that Isabella the girl did not like being Maria the nun and wanted to vent her frustrations. That she put her heretical feeling and rebellious thoughts on paper and used a code that she devised to disguise the words. It is very possible in her position at the monastery that she could have learned Latin and Greek and Arabic. For many years, Maria had been reading religious scriptures that were written in ancient languages. It may have allowed her to create her own secret code. But other historians and religious people believe that the devil's letter is the real evil deal. But there also could be a more psychological explanation. Sister Maria Crocefissa could possibly have had schizophrenia. Schizophrenics hallucinate, and the most common hallucination is a religious hallucination. And auditory hallucinations, like the devil whispering to you, are also very common. There are many times when schizophrenics are lucid and can tell the difference between what is real and what is not. And her screams and fits at the altar may have been her slipping in and out of lucidity. Now, obviously, we can't make a diagnosis for Maria now, so this theory remains speculation. We all have our demons. Perhaps some of them like to write strange, cryptic, and incomprehensible letters. Or perhaps Sister Maria Crocefissa knew something we don't.
It is cold outside, so we just took a picture of it. I think it really turned out really good. I love the way the colors look. I know I griped about it before, but it really does look good. Now, the size of it is 69 by 81. And it's all been hand sewn. The sewing machine did not even touch it. Okay, so now, this is the signature patch. And I hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you all the next quilt or next thing that I do.